Last though. All right, I have to talk a lot tonight, so I'm going to do a very fast intro and turn it over for the awards. But before we begin our program, I want to recognize a few people who are very instrumental to the work that we do. We would not be here without our amazing group of trustees. If you are an IPR trustee, please stand and we will clap for you and your amazingness. IPR trustees, stand up, yes! I love all our trustees. I'm very lucky to have the job I do to get to work with them. Thank you to our premium table sponsors, Stacy Jones, the Accenture table. They always show up. And Chris Foster and the Omnicom table. There's one person who I know who knows how to mix a good cocktail, and that is Catherine Hernandez Blades. And she is the SAIC table who sponsored our, where's Catherine? There she is, who sponsored our cocktail reception. Thank you, Catherine. All right. Next, I wanted to thank the IPR team who tirelessly for the past 2 years, they've just kicked you know what, and are just so amazing to work with and putting this together tonight. So can we also shout out to the IPR team? All right, and we also have to thank our industry partners and supporters. That's the Commission for PR Education, Maria Russell's here tonight, PR Council, the Museum of PR, PRSA, the Page Center for Integrity and Public Communication, Page Society, and the University of Florida, where IPR is headquartered. Go Gators. They always do that. They always do that. And then I have to thank CVent. We have some CVent representatives over there. They run our virtual programs and our master classes, so thank you. They're really awesome to work with for hybrid events. WIC is our amazing web partner. We have 3 people from WIC representing today, Bobby, Pam, and Tim. We revamped the front page of our website this year with their help, and we also made it accessible for all. So yay to them. All right, feel free to use the hashtag IPR lecture, take lots of photos, go to the step and repeat. Please note that all bios of our winners and speakers are in the program. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our MC and the amazing IPR chair of the board, Stacy Jones of Accenture. Stacy.
Thank you, Tina. You are a hard act to follow, but I could not be more grateful, really grateful than to be standing in front of this just warm, amazing, and welcoming room. And because you're a hard act to follow, we are going to bring the Graduate Students Awards. And not only do I get the pleasure and truly the privilege of recognizing our graduate students from this year, but also last year, because as you know, we did not have this chance to come together. So get ready for the future of this industry. They're amazing, they're incredible, and we're gonna bring them on. So I'm gonna dig in by our first award and presenting that. It's the 2020, because we're still in 2020, right? So go back with me. The Makovsky Best Master's Thesis of the Year Award, sponsored by Makovsky. I would like to invite Andrew Goldberg, who's the Chief Growth Officer and Executive Vice President of Makovsky, to come to the stage and help present this award. Now for the fun part. The winner of the 2020 Makovsky Best Master's Thesis of the Year is Manuelita Maldonado, and she is from the University of Southern California, and her master's thesis is The Rise of Intelligent Machines, How Artificial Intelligence is Transforming the PR Industry, a very near and dear topic to us at Accenture. And I'm so happy, Manuelita, please join us on the stage. Okay, we're still in 2020, and our next award is the Grunig Excision Insights Award. And this award was named after two outstanding educators and researchers in our field, Drs. Grunig and Lori Grunig, Jim and Lori. Excision sponsors this fellowship to encourage graduate students' interest in public relations research as a career opportunity, which we know is a great one. I would like to invite Chelsea Merkin, Senior Vice President and Head of Global Analysis at Excision, to come up and help present this award. Now, the winner of the 2020 Grunig Excision Insights Award is Julie Shee. Julie is a doctoral student at the University of Maryland. She completed a virtual fellowship with her soon-to-be published research entitled, I love this, Stepping into the Controversial Issues, Corporate Social Advocacy Communications in the News and on Twitter. So welcome and congratulations, Julie. All right. So, at this time, do we have a toast? Or Tina's helping me. At this time, I would like to invite Anitra Henry, Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives for IPR, up to the stage. And this is our next award. It's the 2021 IPR and the LeGrant Foundation Fellowship for both the fall and the spring semesters. This fellowship was created to promote diversity and increase the number of ethnic minorities employed within the field of public relations by bringing a graduate student or a recent undergraduate onto the IPR team for a paid work experience. It's amazing. Big thanks to Kim Hunter. Thank you so much, Kim, of the LeGrant Foundation, for your partnership. And the winner of the spring IPR and LeGrant Foundation Fellowship is Kalyn Hicks. Kalyn is a graduate of the University of Southern California, Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, and his research examines how inclusive practices and diversity management influence PR firms' employee perceptions of work, culture, and team performance. So, Kalyn, congratulations. Okay, so now we're going to the winner of the Fall IPR LeGrant Foundation Fellowship, Adebola Adeyemo. She is currently earning her master's degree in public relations at the Boston University. And I'd like to invite her up to the stage, and I hope I did your name correctly. You trained me up. She is passionate about creating spaces for inclusion, understanding, and belonging. She sees communication as a way to interact, understand, and be understood, which we love. Adebola, I'm so happy to present this award to you, and so thrilled for you. So our final student award is the Don Bartholomew Award for Excellence in Public Relations Research. And it's sponsored by Ketchum Global Research and Analytics. For the past 20 years, this award has been given to a graduate student to encourage new research and measurement methods. I would like to invite Nicole Moreo, Executive Vice President and Head of Analytics at Ketchum, to come up and help present this award. And now to our final winner. The winner of the 2021 Don Bartholomew Award for Excellence in Public Relations Research is Shui-Rong Liu. Shui-Rong is a doctoral candidate of public, come on up, Shui-Rong, of public relations. She is at the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Georgia, go Dogs. Her primary research focuses on how publics respond to competing and conflicting information spread on social media in times of public health crisis or risk situations, which was perfect for this year, certainly. And I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. Okay, so actually, there is one more award. So one more congratulations to say to all of our student award winners. And now I'd like to welcome Holly Jarrell of SSRS to introduce our 2021 recipient of the Jack Felton Medal for Lifetime Achievement. An amazing, so come to the stage. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, good evening. I am so delighted to present the 2021 Jack Felton Medal for Lifetime Achievement. This award is given to an individual for contributions made in advancing the importance of making significant use of research, measurement, and evaluation in public relations and corporate communication practice while giving back to the industry. Today, I am so proud to introduce Allison Hughley. And I'm sitting with a number of people who are also so proud. Allison fans, including Mother Sharon, husband Eric, sister Elise, and manager Mel. So for 22 years, I just want to give you a few comments. I have watched Allison scale the heights of her career, deep dive into every crevice of commercial research, and master it. Fall in love, get married, create a beautiful family with husband Eric, her 2 sons, and a big dog. Wield her influence to the good as a Black businesswoman and volunteer board member, and earned countless awards for her contributions to her chosen field. All with a quiet power, kindness, and inimitable wit. And I have uniquely had the privilege of experiencing Allison's insight, sheer brain power, and innovative and collaborative spirit from the moment she began her research career. As her first manager at GFK, and then again years later at MSL Group, I quickly learned Allison quietly elevates everything. The art and practice of research, its role in an organization, and her relationships in and outside of work. Elevating everything isn't just words. It's what she does, and it's who she is and how she is. When Allison was in her early 20s, I'm gonna tell a story. And she was just starting out as a consumer trends analyst. We, a group of vice presidents, asked her and her fellow analysts to make a trends presentation. And we did that because we wanted to train her. This was a training exercise. Little did we know that this very quiet 23-year-old was a powerhouse rhetorician who can make even the flattest data sing. In her 20-minute debut, Allison revealed the art of storytelling with integrated insights, verbal gymnastics, humor, and exuberance, to the point that every senior person in the room vowed to never present after her. She was more polished and prepared than any of us were on our best day. She was inspiring. And to be that person takes immense curiosity, inner confidence, and consistent hard work. It takes taking things very seriously after work hours and having high expectations, something I know she got from Sharon. She's completed 2 master's degrees, all while working full-time, once in her mid-20s, while she was already putting in ridiculous hours, and I know that because I was making her put in ridiculous hours. And again, as a busy mom and president of a global analytics team 15 years later. She did all this because Allison is the real deal, with her sleeves rolled up. When she was not yet 30 and joined me to start a research division at MSL Group, neither of us had actually heard of measurement and evaluation. But she dove deep, she built the practice, and later went on to build award-winning solutions. She also built bridges to every internal team and every person, elevating our team's reputation and creating goodwill. She could get along with everyone, and she knows I certainly could not. Importantly, she broke new measurement ground, and I can honestly say she was ready and willing to serve IPR well before it was ready for her. And that she has done. We could fill a book with Allison's efforts to move the science of PR research forward. And as I think ahead, I think of how lucky her new team at LinkedIn is to have this big thinking, bridge building leader as its steward. But I'll leave you with this. My early experiences with Allison lend just a bird's eye into her character and her impact. As a friend, she is the most earnest, engaging, and engaged person I know. My husband Tim and I had a long, relaxed lunch with her over the summer to celebrate her new role at LinkedIn. After sitting 3 hours on I-95 in a traffic jam, Allison brought her Allison A-game wit and wisdom and riffed on the topics of the day over a glass of Malbec. After lunch, my husband remarked on how you can just sit back, listen, and truly learn in Allison's presence. For me, it's simply a joy to be in her orbit. She elevates the people she touches, making them feel supported, enlightened, and uplifted. So with that, and keeping with my decades-long rule of never speaking after her, please welcome and celebrate this year's Jack Felton Medal for Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, the incredible, inspiring Allison Hughley.
Oh, I'm so short. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. I'm truly humbled, and Holly, thank you for those words. Holly has known me from the beginning of my professional career. She was the first voicemail offering me an interview for a job coming out of undergrad. And we've been on this journey together for many years. And she evolved from being my first boss, who taught me what it meant to be a good manager, to be intellectually curious and intellectually generous, and who really set me on an amazing trajectory and really introduced me to PR when we worked together at MSL and to the IPR, because I watched her go to the meetings and I heard the conversations, and I'll share this now. I was like, well, when Holly is ready for her next play, I hope IPR will call me and I can get involved and contribute. So I watched from the sidelines and learned from Holly and took note of all the names and the great players in the organization. So all the way till today, when my husband Eric was kind enough, you're ready for a Lifetime Achievement Award when you're digging to the bottom of your bag to find your reading glasses so you can see the speech. So first I'd like to thank Tina and the entire Institute of Public Relations professional community for this honor. There are moments in your life when you pause to reflect on your accomplishments, and there are moments in your life when you pause to reflect on the people who have shaped your journey. This honor immediately prompted me to reflect on the amazing people who have contributed to shaping my professional journey, many of whom are prior award winners of this honor. Charlotte Otto, we had the honor and benefit of working with when I was at Weber Shandwick. Mark Wiener, who has been at times a data partner, more often a thought partner, and always a friend. Katie Payne and Don Stacks, who I've always looked to for mental challenge and fuel and unpacking the problem that is measuring the complexities of public relations. When you truly dive into it, is not just media relations, it is so much more. When I started in PR with Holly at MSL Group, it was actually Katie's conferences and presentations and books that were so core to establishing a lot of the foundation. So I want to give credit and honor to those who have come before and have contributed so much to our industry, and to so many of us in this room. So to Katie, to Mark, Don, Charlotte, thank you so much for all that you've done. I would like to thank the Measurement Commission and sister organizations like AMAC that create forums for ideas to be explored and new challenges to be addressed to advance our profession through data and analytics. People like John Burke of AMAC who bring forward humor and make it understandable, tangible, approachable, accessible to so many people, which is so important. When data are the hairy, scary, it inhibits people from leaning in and embracing it. And so part of it is just making it, again, something that feels tangible and accessible. It's so important. When I think of the model these professionals established and from which I benefited, really what I take away is radical intellectual generosity. I'm humbled and inspired by all that they've done, and humbled and inspired to be considered in their class and in their orbit. No one succeeds alone, so I'd also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the data partners who've been in the trenches with me, amazing companies that help get it done, who will take a concept. So partners, Public Relay, Morning Consult, Signal Labs, who throughout the journey of trying to experiment will lean in and get in the trench. That is rare, and that is so appreciated. Innovation, I like to say, is like almost everything else in life, it is a team sport. Thank you to the leaders across the several organizations that I've had the honor and privilege to be a part of, MSL Group, Weber Shandwick, Prudential, who afforded me runway and budget to experiment. Okay, nothing, it's a team sport, sometimes an expensive sport, but to try new things, to teach and learn from others, really to advance the role in the application of data and communication, who trusted me to try to do new things and supported. So this runway is a gift, and so I sincerely thank the leaders of these organizations, Andy Polanski, Gail Hyman within Weber, Lauren Day and Alan Sexton at Prudential, who are communications leaders who understand and value research and understand its impact and implications. Thank you to those who have inspired me to continue to inspire me to be better as a human and as a professional, to be more thoughtful, more generous with my time, and more generous with my blessings. Thank you, Mom. My husband, Eric, my son, Ethan, my mother, for whom no sacrifice for her children was too great. My sister, Elise, who inspires me to be fearless. Thank you, Elise. My cup overflows truly with examples of amazing humans in my life, and more keep coming. Thank you, Mel, who is core to the next chapter of my career at LinkedIn. I could not have asked for a more personally and professionally exciting and rewarding next play. So thank you. And with that, I will just thank everyone in this room. Thank you for everyone who considered me worthy of this honor. I am humbled by this honor, and I hope only to continue to do it credit. Thank you.
Yes, I'll get one after with her. By the way, I don't want to follow Allison either, but here I am. And I've known that for many years. So I just want to say, you're going to hear from me twice tonight to do introductions. We asked the award winners who they would like to introduce them. I just want you to know, I have 0 votes, by the way. This is a committee vote. Does someone laugh? I really have 0 vote or contribution to this. But I'm very excited to introduce this year's Ipr Pathfinder Award winner. The Ipr Pathfinder Award is given in recognition of lifetime achievement to an individual who has made significant and sustained contributions to the body of knowledge and practice of PR through published research. I'm thrilled to introduce this year's winner, Marcia Destasso. Dr. Marcia Destasso, I met her 20 years ago. I will admit she is my best friend and fellow researcher from before I was at IPR. I met her 20 years ago when I was trying to recruit her into the PhD program at the University of Miami, where I was a student. Thankfully, she accepted, with hesitation. Thankfully, she accepted, and since then has just been brilliant and fierce. Hands down, she is one of the best researchers in our field. And if you went to the research symposium today, you could see that demonstrated. There is no one, and I mean no one, who has been at the forefront of what this field needs the most when they need it the most than Dr. Destasso. She is one of the few researchers to study Wikipedia, and she received international attention for her work, and even threats, by the way, because they didn't like what she said. And even Jimmy Wales, the founder, commented on her research. She's an expert on financial communications and investor relations. She has multiple books. She was the chair of Mini Page Center for Integrity Grants. She worked with Page Society as a researcher as well. She's probably one of the only academics who has won a professional PRSA Silver Anvil Award for the work she did with her students at Penn State University. She embodies the true sense of research that matters to the profession, which is the mission of IPR and what we do. I was so lucky to be blessed to be a frequent co-author with her when I was a professor. I also before I got this job, co-led a digital research center with her. She helped me get tenure because I was at like a poor university and she was at Penn State. So I just glommed onto her research. That's really the truth. She seriously helped me get tenure. I had no budget, and I still get to work with her a lot at IPR. She is my absolute favorite. Oh God, stop it. She's my absolute favorite researcher, one of my favorite people, hands down. Damn it, Marcia, are you happy? My makeup is gonna run. She has this excellent attention to detail, and she has never once to even proposed cutting corners. Like, her work is so tight and ethical. She's just amazing. She's trustworthy, dependable, and is just so passionate about her students and everything she does. For those who may not know, she is literally the hardest working person I know. She like sleeps 4 hours a night and she works weekends. She's just hardcore. She loves her family, Samantha and Matthew and Pat, her kids, who I remember when she was pregnant with them. I remember when you were like embryos. And then she loves her family. She loves her friends. She loves this industry. In closing, we have all benefited from the research of Marcia, and we've been just exposed to her brilliant mind and lifetime's accomplishments. She's had an impact on so many and on IPR, and I just count myself in that part who's had a positive impact from her. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in celebrating our 2021 Pathfinder Award winner, Dr. Marcia Destasso.
Okay, how do I follow that? Oh my goodness. First get me emotional and then make me get on stage. All right. So I am so very, very honored to have my research recognized in front of this group and be standing on this stage tonight. I think I'm still in shock. Still trying to come to terms with the fact that I'm standing on the stage. All right. So I would like to thank Tina. Start by thanking Tina. Start by not crying because of what Tina said. But we have been friends for a very long time. And in fact, she's one of the reasons I'm standing on this stage, because I may have helped her get tenure, but she helped me get tenure too. So yes, she is truly my best friend. Truly one of the reasons that I love this field and what we do. And IPR, I love that as well. But I'd like to thank the reviewers and all of the IPR trustees for this great honor. Next, I'd like to thank and acknowledge my colleagues and research collaborators. Some of you are in this room, some of my dearest friends. I love getting to do research with you guys. Next, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues as well. I may have said that, but really, truly, my colleagues, my collaborators, this research award is for us. Boy, it takes a team to get it done. So most of all, though, I would like to thank my family. My husband, Patrick, my daughter, Samantha, my son, Matthew, and I can see you from here. I am so glad that you joined me here tonight. And thank you for your patience with me when I keep saying, don't worry, this week is going to be a lot of work, but next week will be better, and next week is never better. It is always work, but you guys are troopers. You've even helped me do some of the research, so thank you. All right, and I can imagine, like everyone does, when you win an award, you reflect on what gets you to that point. So I spent some time considering that, and really since my PhD, man, I've been busy. I had my 2 kids. I had my daughter the second semester as a faculty member, and my son 2 years later. So aside from that, though, I spent a lot of time teaching. I still teach, love teaching. I connect with the profession. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate what I get to do. I conduct research, and then now I have the privilege to work as the department chair at the University of Florida. Go Gators! There's a few Gators in the room. So I really do, though. I have the best job in the world. I teach amazing students, and I get to work with the most kind and brilliant professors and staff. I run a research team, too, with my completely unbiased, most talented, curious graduate students ever. In them, I recognize my drive for finding the answers to some of the issues the public relations field and society are facing. It has been important for me to do that. As an academic, I have always worked to find or to research things that excite me and hopefully matter to the profession. So earlier in my career, like Tina said, I took on Wikipedia. It felt like it was a battle between me and them. But I also did research in social media, financial communication, investor relations, and now, as Tina mentioned, I'm primarily studying purpose, or how a company creates value by addressing solutions to economic, environmental, and social issues. Purpose is how we can really make a difference. Thank you. All right. These past few years have resulted in companies responding to calls from stakeholders about climate action, racial, gender, and social justice, and diverse political issues, all during a pandemic. It's been a challenging time for all of us, and the impact has been profound on trust. I believe in facts, science, and truth. Former Unilever CEO Paul Polman said in his book, Net Positive, that speaking out is how we depoliticize this. So I hope you will join me in speaking out. This is so very important. As we progress on these global challenges, it requires that common set of facts and mutual understanding. But ultimately, working together, professionals and academics, we can help make businesses a force for good. Through our research, collaboration, action, and counsel, we can help companies lead with purpose and strive for net positive. It's the right thing to do. It's the necessary thing to do. Thank you. This way?
I've never given an award in my whole life, and then tonight I have two. I promise this last time you will hear from me, I promise. I will go back in my hidey hole after this year. So I am absolutely thrilled to introduce this year's IPR Lifetime Achievement Award winner. This is given to an individual who has made major contributions to the practice of public relations, including effective use of research. The individual's character exemplifies leadership while also living the values of integrity, humility, and stewardship. And today I'm honored to introduce Meryl McDonald. Oh, I have a whole speech, Meryl, hold on. So I met Meryl when I was a professor and a new Page member. She was so larger than life, she was like a complete celebrity. And she was, as they say, ruling the school with her service to Page and other industry groups when there wasn't a lot of women doing that. We just looked up to Meryl so much. She is so passionate about our industry. Sometimes people receive awards because they did something great at their organization, but Meryl's reach is so industry-wide. She has helped so many people that don't even touch Gagan and her work there. More than 20 years ago, she started Gagan McDonald. And she told me a story, I remember this, Meryl, that when she started, she had 3 job codes, in their system. Her only client at the time, Page Society and IPR. And she told me from the outset that giving back was always what she wanted to do. When IPR was developing a strategic plan, Meryl volunteered, and one of her team members, Patricia Bayerlein, who's here tonight, led this initiative for 6 months, and it changed us as an organization. I've been to some of her workshops for women in leadership, and she invests in making people stronger. I've also had the opportunity to spend time with Meryl's family, most who are here, her husband, Mark, her daughter, Killian. Her daughter, Morgan, just had a baby. That was the reason why she didn't come to our regional event, because her daughter had a baby the next day. We forgave her. It was fine. We did miss you, though. If you know Meryl, you know her true passion is horses. And she has a farm in Wisconsin named after her parents, Mary Budd Farm. She's transforming the farm for equestrian leadership programs. So I spent time with Meryl and Mary Budd Farm this summer, and she changed my life. The thing about Meryl and what I've seen, not just with me, but all the people she comes in contact with, is she doesn't even realize the sort of change she has on people. She's so dedicated, and she's just so freaking smart. She's so smart. So before I call her up here, I have to tell a quick Meryl story. We were at Mary Budd Farm, and we were standing next to a horse. I'm not really a horse person. I mean, they're super cute, but I'm not a horse person. I was standing next to Magic and holding the rope. And of course, Magic is like, I can take down this lady. Like, I'm gonna eat her clothes and just like mess with her. And I was like, stop, Magic, stop, just stop. And so he's like the sweetest horse. And I was like, hey, it's easy, Magic. So Meryl knew I was a little horse hesitant, which is the really great thing about the Equestrian Leadership Program is horses are very present. They sense you, and that's how they respond. So Magic was not going to listen to me. So Meryl just took his rope, gave him a tug, and like whispered in his ear. I'm not even joking. And then he like straightened up. And I was like, oh my God, she is the horse whisperer, like the literal horse whisperer. And so when I asked her, she said she wanted me to introduce her, I thought about that. And I thought she really is a horse whisperer. She is just this like calming presence about her. She's just strong and amazing. She helps us be better and she heals our spirits like the horse whisperer. I could go around and ask people about how Meryl has touched them and impacted their lives, and they would all tell you a story. But I only have 3 minutes, so Nikki's gonna yell at me if I don't hurry up. So I just wanted to thank you, Meryl, for everything that you have done for me, for everybody you've touched for this industry over the long haul. I am absolutely honored to give this award to you. So everyone, please join me in celebrating your 2021 IPR Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Meryl McDonald. Yeah, and then I'll take it from you.
Wow. Thank you, Tina. Those 3 minutes were worth a lifetime. I really appreciate it. Wasn't the introduction I was expecting about the horses, but I'm glad you got that in there. Thank you. So, Tina, I've learned so much from you, and I'm always in awe of your leadership and your passion. And I know I speak for all of us by saying it's truly remarkable how you've raised the bar for our profession. And I think we all should give Tina a round of applause. And I want to congratulate Allison and Marcia, because it's such an honor to share this stage with you and the 5 students. You're going to do such incredible things. And, we're all here looking at the next generation and saying we're in great shape. And thank you to IPR for this Lifetime Achievement Award. It's been a blessing to spend my career among so many of you who are leaders in advancing the science beneath the art of public relations. And now you're giving me the joyous and overwhelming experience of joining the ranks of past honorees who include my lifetime mentors and my friends, people such as Marjorie Krause, Bill Nielsen, Pat Ford, Mike Hernandez, Roger Bolton, Wendy Strong, Ray Kocher, and the late Harold Burson, just to name a few. The people in this room and on Zoom have made life better for consumers, employees, everyone by using research and innovation to really help companies communicate more effectively. As you all know, one of IPR's priorities is helping companies to better develop metrics. That's important work because we all know that better metrics lead to better decisions for companies as well as for all of us. Of course, metrics only work if you know what you want to measure. So what's on your measuring stick? Or put another way, what really matters? It's an important question. In the past 20 months, COVID upended life as we know it, and in effect, the world experienced a radical experiment in what really matters to people. Companies tossed out their old business models and created new ones. The employee experience changed drastically overnight. In the middle of it all, social unrest and political turmoil seemed to boil over. What's so remarkable is that all of this happened when we were at home, slowed down, isolated, and surrounded by the people for whom we care the most. And so, as the world was lurching into something new, we had the time and the space to think about it. And what did we think about? We thought about what really matters. And thanks to social media, Zoom, and other technologies, the Imaginelle cells have found each other. Imaginelle cells. That's likely a term unfamiliar to many of you, although some of you have heard me talk about this before. In fact, my leadership program is called the Imaginelle cell. These are the cells within a caterpillar that contain the blueprint for a butterfly. And when the caterpillar breaks down into a sort of gooey mess, the Imaginelle cells all find each other, and they create a butterfly. Not a better caterpillar, but something entirely new and beautiful, something that soars. I believe this is what business is experiencing now. Over the last 2 years, we've seen our systems break down, and we're creating a totally new way of working. The Imaginelle cells have found each other. And we're witnessing a marvelous transformation based on the things that really matter. First, there's now great value on safety and well-being for ourselves and for our loved ones. The days of demanding that employees sacrifice their mental and physical health or important family time are over. Second, people want flexibility and autonomy in their lives, and they're demanding it, and we've learned that companies can give it to them and remain fully functional. Third, we've reaffirmed that people need community. We're social animals, and we need to be part of something larger than ourselves. And more, we get that through our work. In fact, at the summit today, Marcia shared with us a McKinsey finding that 70% of employees are saying their sense of purpose is defined by their work. So we need to ask ourselves, as leaders, how can we foster that community, that sense of purpose? How can we truly transform the employee experience? We can do it by recognizing that people want their work to matter. They want to learn and grow and deploy their greatest gifts. They want to be heard, to be seen, to belong. They want to count. The great resignation and the great exhaustion has led to the great reflection. And it's a widespread thirst for meaning, belonging, and equity at work. We're seeing the possibilities and the beauty instead of the grub-like drudgery, the butterflies replacing the caterpillar. In C-suite after C-suite, how people feel is now topic number one. The past 21 months have made the world realize that people really matter. We're recognizing that our measuring stick is all about humanity. So as much as I'm honored by this recognition of my career so far, I have to say that my focus is on the possibilities ahead. We've been quietly building an army of people that believe love in business is good business. And I'm thrilled that companies are asking themselves the questions that I've been engaged in for more than 30 years. How can we build a better culture? How can we authentically engage our teams so they're fulfilled, they're productive, they're effective? My career before starting Gig and McDonald was on the corporate side and gave me a unique insight on corporate culture. I worked for many different functions: HR, finance, operations, corporate communication, and marine transportation. Those experiences helped me to see that the solution to corporate dysfunction is usually found in what I call the white space between the silos. You all know what they are. They're those hard to understand challenges that no one quite owns. The rapid pace of innovation, fast-changing customer expectations, societal tensions, deep mistrust, and now we can even add the higher expectations that employees and customers have post-pandemic. The white space between the silos is the corporate version of the gooey mess. And as leaders, with the right approach, we can turn it into something beautiful. To succeed, companies need to embrace the idea of permanent transformation. They need to realize that they aren't static bundles of silos led by a heroic leader. They're ever-evolving ecosystems that should aim to maximize the talent and the expertise of their people. Successful companies in this era of permanent transformation will be the ones that really excel at three things that change everything: First, a compelling story, one that everyone can see themselves in, one that everyone can tell. You're all experts at that. Next, we need committed leaders who make that story come alive in the workplace. A committed leader doesn't try to do it all. Instead, the leader helps employees connect their work to the company's larger purpose, to achieve their personal and professional goals and bring their ideas to life. The committed leader is a host, not a hero. A host who works across the silos and enables the Imaginell cells to find each other. The third thing that changes everything is an intentional roadmap. We all know you can't inspire and unite complex people with a Gantt chart. You can't transform a company with a project mindset alone. An intentional roadmap addresses all aspects of the employee experience, not just tasks and deadlines, but relationships and feelings. The goal is to foster harmonious collaboration so that everyone understands where we're going and why, and that we can all get there together. Our work in this exciting time is to help companies foster that sort of transformation so people can find fulfillment by making the best of their gifts and their passions. I want to thank all of you who've helped me transform and grow over the years, the mentors who inspired me and encouraged me, the amazing colleagues who've always had my back, and the clients who've invited me into their journey so that I could contribute what I could. I wouldn't be standing here without you. And of course, to my husband, Mark, my daughters, Morgan and Killian, and my son-in-law, Tom, thank you as always for your love and support. And as I say those words, it sounds so small compared to the magnitude of what you've given me. In closing, it's been a humbling experience to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award from the people I so greatly respect. But if I'm honest, I'm even more humbled to admit that I've lived a lifetime. That makes the time I have left that much more precious. I've waited a lifetime for organizations to truly realize that people and their feelings do really matter. And it took a pandemic to make it happen. And I'm not going to let that moment go to waste. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Meryl and all of our winners. It is an honor to celebrate you here this evening. Please join me in a round of applause for all of our winners. Good evening. I'm Catherine Hernandez Blades. I am Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at SAIC. I am also a trustee of IPR, and I have the distinguished privilege of introducing our 2021 distinguished lecturer, Ravi Arguelle. He is the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy magazine and host of the Global Reboot podcast. Before joining Foreign Policy, he had a long and distinguished career as a television journalist, with roles such as senior producer of CNN's Fareed Zakaria's GPS, and as the network's South Asia Bureau Chief based in New Delhi. He is the author of India Connected, How the Smartphone is Transforming the World's Largest Democracy. And this is a book that the Wall Street Journal has named among the top 5 books on the country of India. He is a regular guest commentator on BBC, NPR, CNN, and MSNBC. And he frequently moderates discussions at events such as the World Economic Forum and the IMF's annual meetings. And today, he's ours. He will discuss 3 future challenges and opportunities that communicators need to think about as we head into 2022. Please join me in welcoming Ravi Arguelle.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you to Tina, Catherine, Nikki, the IPR team. Thank you to all of you for being here. I have to say, it's just great to feel the energy of a room again and to be around other people. I feel very blessed to be able to do that. Haven't done something like this now in about 2 years, so it's great to be here. Now, it's December, and we're all looking ahead to 2022. And so I thought I'd do something that I kind of do for myself every year around about this time, which is to look ahead to the next year. And I thought I'd organize my talk. And by the way, I have about 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and keep this quick. I don't want to keep you from dessert and more booze, but I thought I'd organize this by discussing first 3 things that worry me heading into 2022. You know, all the doom scrolling that you do every day or that you have done for the last 2 years, this is going to be it. It's going to be like therapy for me. I'm just going to talk about things that worry me. But I'm not going to leave you on a bad note. I will end with 3 things to be optimistic about in 2022. And the reason why I want to do this is, you know, we tend to worry because we want to prepare ourselves, and it's good to prepare. But we also need reasons to keep going. And so that's what I'm going to do. 3 things I am worried about, 3 things that I'm optimistic about. And then I'll open it up for questions because I'd love to hear from you as well. So let's get going. First off, 3 things I'm worried about in 2022 and beyond. I'll start with the most obvious one, and that is COVID and new variants of the virus. This is all in the news, so much of it will be familiar to you. Omicron is the latest variant that everyone is worried about. It's a variant of concern, according to WHO. And there's actually very little that we know about it. The little that we do know is that this is a variant that has an alarming number of mutations on its spike protein. And what this means is that the spike protein is the part of the virus that infects our cells and allows it to sort of give us the disease, as it were. Just this week, Moderna's CEO, in an interview with the FT, said that he thinks our current vaccines, Moderna's vaccines, are going to be a little bit less effective against Omicron. He's not sure, but it's a prediction, and it's a worrying prediction. Now, we don't know if that's true. There's a decent chance that Omicron might turn out to not be something that is incredibly fatal. But here's the thing that really worries me about COVID in 2022. We are all so lucky. We've all been doubly vaccinated. I'm going to assume we've been checked. Many of us are boosted. But the reality is that only 3% of the world has had a booster dose. Only 45% of the world has been fully vaccinated, which is 2 doses. In India, where I was last week, 33% of people have had 2 doses. In Nigeria, which has close to 200 million people, only 2% of people have had 2 doses. Much of the continent of Africa runs at a range below 4% of populations being vaccinated. What does that tell you? What it means is that heading into 2022, we will see further waves of infection. It's going to happen. In Europe, there are more daily infections right now than at any point in the pandemic. So this is happening now. It's going to continue in 2022. I hate to break this to you. I hate to spoil the mood, but that is what's going to happen. If you're vaccinated, you know, you're in much better shape. Now, again, the reason why this worries me, other than the obvious, which is that this pandemic isn't over until enough people are vaccinated, is that there's a greater chance that we'll have more variants, especially from the developing world, among people who might have other diseases and therefore a greater chance of mutations having time to breed within them. But also, COVID, in a sense, was a dress rehearsal. It was a dress rehearsal for other pandemics, for other crises, for climate change. And it doesn't bode well that on this one big issue, we did so well with vaccines, but the world as a whole could have done better at distributing vaccines around the world. There were many obstacles, obviously money, inequality, patent law, supply chain issues, vaccine resistance, all of those things, but we could have done better. And it worries me because when there is something you could have done better at, it spurs resentment, it spurs protest. That's one of the things that keeps me up at night about 2022. And I am going to cheer you up at the end, I promise. But let me keep going for now. I'm kind of worried that table over there is going to start chucking food at me. The second thing that makes me worry, and that is democracy. And the reason why I bring this up right now, I could have brought it up at any point over the last 5 years, I guess. But the reason why I bring it up now is that next week, President Biden is hosting a democracy summit. Democracy is going to be in the news everywhere. And so I thought it's a good topic to talk about. And it does worry me because democracy has been in decline now for several years around the world. According to Freedom House, which does track these things, democracy has been in decline for 15 consecutive years around the world. It has been in decline in the world's two biggest democracies, for example, India and the United States, in very obvious ways. In even more blatant ways, it's been in decline in countries like Belarus or Venezuela or Hong Kong or Ethiopia. Name your crisis around the world, and it is likely linked to a decline in democracy. This is a deeply, deeply worrying thing and trend. Now, one of the reasons why I worry so much about this is that we've become, as a global community, quite complacent about democracy. You see, many of you might have read Frank Fukuyama's great book, The End of History, and in that book, he sort of makes this grand thesis that in 1989, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, democracy was suddenly seductive. I mean, the battle between democracy and communism was over, in a sense. Democracy won. Countries around the world wanted to democratize. Democracy was sexy. Except, what ended up happening is, yes, many countries democratized, but for some of them, we saw the birth of illiberal democracy, we saw nationalism, populism, all kinds of forces that meant that in real outcomes, the world was actually becoming less democratic in the last 15 or 20 years. You add to that mix unfettered capitalism, you add to that mix profound inequality, you add to that urbanization, you add to that this unprecedented rate of change in technology, and you add all of that, you get a lot of good from these things, don't get me wrong. But what you also get is more inequality at times. You get weakening of local communities. Any of you who are not from urban parts of America or urban parts of the world know this in your bones. Communities are weakening. People are leaving towns and villages, and they're coming to the cities. And all of this means more protest, more problems, more troubles within democracy. You'll see this play out next week in the news. You'll see this play out a lot over the next year in a range of countries. The Biden administration has basically made democracy and sort of aligning democracies against autocracies as one of the great sort of pillars of this administration. And so you will see this theme play out in many ways. What worries me about it is that while we are trying to boost democracy in a variety of ways, fight corruption, for example, try and fight inequality, a lot of this, in my opinion, only scratches at the surface, and a lot more is required, basically rethinking democracy in a sense, which you'll read many essays about in the coming weeks. Now, all of this leads me to the third thing that really worries me. And then I promise I really will stop with the worries. The third thing that worries me, and that we all know about and that we all look ahead to in 2022, is China. Many of you have heard of the Thucydides principle. If you haven't, it is basically a theory. The Thucydides trap was a theory that was put forward by the Harvard political scientist Graham Allison, and he basically posited that, you know, when you have a country that is declining in power and another country that is rising in power and likely going to threaten its primacy, you are likely to have a war. And the name Thucydides trap comes from the Athenian general Thucydides, who basically made that point when he was trying to argue that the rise of Athens and the decline of Sparta would inevitably lead to war, and it did. Now, the reason why I bring all of this up is this is a live issue. We clearly are in a moment of American decline in relative terms, and we clearly are in a moment of China's rise. We will see this theme play out again and again in the next 50, 60 years, our lifetimes basically. And the bit that is worrying is that, you know, there are very few things that, you know, both sides, both parties in America agree on, and the one thing they seem to agree on right now is that China is enemy number one, and there's an increasing rhetoric, sort of a drumbeat, if you will, that worries me, not only here, but also in other parts of the world. Now, China, just a couple of things to know about China is that, you know, from about the 80s to about 2010 or so, 2007, right before the financial crisis, China was growing at double-digit growth rates, and usually when China does very well, it sits tight. It doesn't have to worry about things because its people are getting richer. That's beginning to change. There are a lot of forces within China that are now worrying those of us who watch Chinese politics. And usually when China's in some sort of trouble, there's a likelihood that it could lash out, in part to fuel nationalist sentiment or populist sentiment. So, for example, we know now that Chinese growth has slowed down. We know now that the average Chinese income has grown so much, they're a middle-income country, it's much harder to go from middle income to rich than it is from poor to middle income. China's going to slow down. China's also getting old. You know, in the next 15 years, about 70 million Chinese will drop out of the workforce. About 130 million Chinese will become senior citizens and stop working. The nature of China is going to change. And that means China will have to look outside its borders to the rest of the world for other ways in which to keep its people happy. And that worries me because in the last couple of years during the pandemic, we have seen a more aggressive China. It's picked fights with India. Look at Taiwan, where there have been threats for war. Look at Hong Kong, with a crackdown on freedom of speech there. You look at Chinese investments in Africa. Just last week, China took over a Ugandan airport in lieu of a loan that wasn't paid off. China's been building secretly villages in Bhutan that no one talks about but are there because you can see them on geospatial maps. All of this is immensely worrying, and I guess the bit that worries me the most is that when you have a situation where you have a rising power, a declining power, you have a lot of rhetoric that is, you know, bombastic, there is a chance that things could get out of hand. I'm quite hopeful that it won't. I'm very hopeful, in fact, because we have very good diplomats around the world who are working very hard to make sure that there are off-ramps, there are diplomatic sort of pressure valves to ensure that things don't go where they shouldn't. But it does worry me, and I think it's good for all of us to know about that. Now, I promised I would stop, so I'm going to stop. But let me talk very quickly about three things that I'm quite optimistic about in 2022. One, of course, again, comes back to COVID. While we've been sitting at home for the last 2 years and we have been marveling at the magic of vaccines, the miracle that is vaccines that have allowed us to be here, a whole bunch of other medical innovations have taken place. I mean, the same mRNA, mRNA technology that is used for Moderna or Pfizer is also going to be used to potentially create a vaccine for HIV. Thank you. There's also talk of a vaccine for malaria. It was trialed in Burkina Faso last year, 77% effective. 400,000 people die of malaria every year. That could go away. That's a huge, huge thing. There's dengue fever. Dengue fever, scientists have invented a way to use bacteria to infect mosquitoes so that mosquitoes can't spread dengue. Not only that, the same would apply to yellow fever, to chikungunya, all diseases that are incredibly dangerous in Asia and Africa. There's polio. Last year, polio was eradicated in Nigeria. Therefore, it's been eradicated in all of Africa. That's amazing news. The only two countries in the world that still have a few cases are Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it's in the dozens. It's very small. These are all things that have been happening while we were worried about COVID, and they're just magical. They're going to affect millions, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world who will be protected from disease. And that's something that makes me immensely hopeful in 2022 because it means lifespans will increase, people will live better lives. The second thing I'm very optimistic about, climate financing. We're all so worried about climate change, and we should be. It's a good thing. But look at what just came out of COP26. There was some incredibly robust commitments. Obviously, even if everyone reaches these commitments, every country, we're still going to increase global temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius. It will still be livable. But the wonderful thing is that what we're seeing, what we're witnessing in action is people fighting. You see all these innovations in climate adaptation, which means allowing us to live well despite all of the floods and storms and problems that we see coming because of climate change. There's climate mitigation as well, which is through all of the innovations we see in clean and renewable energy. And it is amazing if you look at the numbers. I mean, $555 billion in the Build Back Better plan, all dedicated to climate finance. Thank you. Yeah, it is worth clapping for. You think about the fact that the cost of setting up solar is down by orders of magnitude in the last 10 years. Now, you need to store solar energy, you need batteries. Well, the price of batteries is down by 97% in the last 30 years. These are all incredible, incredible scientific innovations that are all worth being so optimistic about. And the last thing on climate finance and climate change that makes me the most optimistic is young people. I'm absolutely inspired by young people. And people in their 20s can sometimes be insufferable, but the truth is, I only wish I had their courage and I had their clarity of vision to be able to argue for the things that make the world a better place. I'm going to end with one last thing. The last thing that I'm very hopeful about, and I say this because it's something you may not ordinarily notice day to day, and that thing is digital progress. You probably think I'm crazy because here in the US, 97% of Americans have smartphones. Obviously, in this climate, a lot of people are worried about the ill effects of technology. There's a lot of conversations going on about tech regulation, antitrust, and all of that. I agree, but put it aside for a second, and let me just take you to the rest of the world. Let me take you to India. And the reason why I'm so optimistic about technological changes in places like India is that in the last 10 years, we have just seen an incredible amount of change. When I grew up in India, I left India in 2001. That year, only 2% of Indians were online. I was lucky to be among the 2%. But the reason why it was 2%, 20 million out of 1 billion, is because only 2% of Indians had access to PCs, and only 2% of Indians had access to telephone landlines. So dial-up, internet, 2%. basically no one could afford computers. The average Indian income is $2,500 a year. They would never have gotten online. And then you have broadband that is invented, and then Wi-Fi, and then wireless, and cellular internet. And you have the smartphone that's invented, and the cheap smartphone that's invented, and it's transformative. So 20 million in 2000 online in India. In 2010, it was 100 million. 2015, it was 300 million. Today, it's about 650 million. It'll be about 1 billion by 2028. That is the pace of growth we're seeing. And again, the reason why this is so important is imagine the pandemic without the internet. And because of the internet, you have hundreds of millions of people in India who are able to do things they would never have been able to do. E-commerce is growing at twice the rate in India today than it was a year and a half ago because of the pandemic. People are ordering online. A whole range of services are growing online. And I'll leave you with one optimistic thought. Whenever you think of the ill effects of tech, remember places like India, countries across Africa, Southeast Asia, South Asia. India, for example, has 200 million plus illiterate people. They don't read or write any language at all. They could never have used the internet, even in the early era of the smartphone. Today they can. They can speak in Hindi or Bengali. They pick up their phone, they say, okay, Google, tell me how to make a samosa in Hindi. Or, when is it going to rain this year? And they get answers. And the range of impacts, the ripple effects are phenomenal. I've seen it in women in rural parts of Bangladesh, India. It gives me immense hope for the future. And immense hope certainly for 2022. So I'm going to stop there because I realize I painted a dire picture of the world. But thank you for letting me speak to you. I'll take a couple of questions. Thank you.
We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions, just depending on the length of Rami's answer.
Okay. I'm happy to take questions if you have any. The caveat is it has to be something I can possibly answer, which may not be much. Okay, who's going first? Right there.
Thank you so much for your talk, and I think it was really interesting to kind of hear all the different pieces with climate and all these other issues we're facing and COVID kind of brought together. But I think my question for you is, you're saying that there's a lot of hope in fighting and the things that are happening in the young professionals and under 30 community. When you look at COP as a success, how do you respond to the fact that youth voices and indigenous voices and female voices were incredibly cut out of the delegations and those other proceedings? And these voices that are fighting, how do they get into the stage to actually affect the policy change?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question. Look, it's awful that they were excluded. It's awful that more people don't get a seat at the table. That's part of the reason why I said democracy is in crisis. We don't have a diverse representative table in general. Name your table. Corporate America, corporate anywhere, name it. The reason why, maybe it's strong of me to say COP26 was a success. It was flawed. It was absolutely flawed. But some of the commitments, such as they are, by elected leaders who struggle to, go back and win elections. The EU's Jean-Claude Juncker had this great line a few years ago where he said, we all know what to do. If we do it, we'll never get elected. And it's true. It's tough. It's tough to put in place difficult reforms. It's tough to transition to clean energy. And remember the growth narrative, the growth imperative that a lot of countries have, especially in the global south. They're juggling a lot. So it was a flawed climate conference, but I have some hope coming out of it, especially the climate financing angle.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my question, I know it's a little nuanced because you mentioned. Oh, is it? I don't know. Yay. So yeah, this question is definitely nuanced as far as the decline of democracy. But do you think that how we define capital will actually change, especially with, people leaving their jobs and defining what a happy life is now what I want is to be happy rather than to make a lot of money. So do you think how we view capital will actually impact democracy as a whole and what that actually looks like?
That's a very deep question. I think the jury's out on how long the current trend of people leaving their jobs continues. I mean, obviously, at some point, people will need to make money. And so I don't know if this is the new normal or we revert to some other previous sort of norm. The jury's out on that. I think democracy is in trouble because it is kind of flawed in the way that it is practiced. I think, the word democracy, it means people power. But the flaw really is in representative democracy as it was envisioned in the 18th and 19th centuries, which basically means that we elect an elite group to rule over us. And you don't have a seat at the table, really, other than your vote. And that's flawed. And I think that what I would urge you all to think about is there are some very interesting experiments underway in France, in Norway, for example, Ireland as well, where countries have had citizens' assemblies, basically ways in which to put regular, ordinary citizens up in the center and for them to deliberate with parliamentarians and to make recommendations and have referendums. And much of this is leading to more democratic outcomes and people feeling that they are more sort of stakeholders in the process. I don't know if this will spread, but it's a very interesting trend to look out for in the next year and beyond. I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That's so kind.
Ravi, this is for you, and thank you for being here with us tonight, and both your experience, your wisdom, and your candor, frankly, about everything you've experienced, and just taking the questions, taking the hard topics. Someone noted, Doug, I think it was you. You made an amazing pivot from "I'm a little sad and scared" to "there's a lot to look forward to." So that's how I want to close out tonight. Congratulations to all the award winners. To everyone who was here, this was one for the memory books, guys and gals. So great to be back together, and I look forward to doing it again next year. And thank you, Tina. Amazing. So with that, I wish everyone a safe trip home and a happy holiday season.
Thank you, everybody.